did I marry a stranger? I think the bigger, deeper question is, am I a stranger to myself? And how can I preserve and deepen the relationship I have with myself? So I just finished this book called Strangers by Belle Burden. And while everyone seems to be talking about the divorce and the infidelity, the thing I can't stop thinking about is the concept of self-abandonment. When do we stop consulting ourselves? And when do we abandon ourselves in order to be loved? Before I explain, I want to say that this is not me judging her or judging the memoir. This is solely the lens in which I looked and read the book because I recognized so much of myself in the story. Throughout the book, I am left with this question of when did she stop consulting herself? And it happened when she signed the prenup. It happened when she emptied her trust to buy a house that she didn't even see. There were so many moments that she deferred a big decision to her husband. And I just really felt the gap in the consultation to self. What do I think? What do I want? What do I desire? I know that it might just be in the book, but for me, I felt like there was this gap in what do I actually want from my life and what is the vision? And in those moments, I felt like there was a minimizing, a dimming, and being like flexible and accommodating, which are really admirable traits, but at the expense of self. And there was a part in the book that absolutely broke my heart, and it was the day that she was telling her kids that she was going to get a divorce. And right after she told her kids, he asked her to make her a sandwich, and she thought, like, I'm going to make him the best sandwich, and he's going to remember like how beautiful our life is together. And it made me think of is like how we try to control a situation, how we try to think or we believe that if we do one thing, a person will realize our worth or realize how amazing we are. And in reality, what we do for another doesn't make us any more lovable or worthy. It's who we are and not what we do. And I think sometimes, at least for myself, there were so many moments in past relationships where I tried to find comfort in my, like, by being enough. Like, if I was good enough, if I did enough, if I was accommodating enough, then I would be loved. And that is just not a guarantee. You can't do something and then expect like a result, because when you do that, I feel like you're trying to control the situation. Thing that really stuck out to me and really just made me realize the tenderness of my own experiences was the lie that we tell ourselves, that if we're accommodating enough, if we're kind enough, if we're flexible enough, if we dim ourselves enough, then we will be lovable. And that is not a guarantee. It's not true. Love is not a vending machine. I can't give you something and then expect you to give it to me back. I wish that were the case, but it's just not true. And I think when you come to that realization of, oh, a person can leave no matter what, there's nothing I can do that can make someone stay, it is actually an incredibly freeing thing, because now I don't have to minimize myself, dismiss myself, accommodate my needs, and really dim who I am in order to be loved. If it guarantees you that, then sure. But this book highlighted that it doesn't. You being small, you dimming your light, you not consulting with yourself and your desires and your dreams, that doesn't guarantee someone will stay forever. So then why do it? Why do it? Another thing that struck me in this book, because it's such a pillar in my culture and in womanhood, is martyrdom. It's this concept that if we sacrifice then it shows how much we love someone. And so if we sacrifice our time, if we sacrifice our desires, if we sacrifice our energy, then we are somehow amazing and great. And like, there's this badge of honor to say, oh, I suffered so much and I sacrificed so much, and that's what makes me amazing. And I really think that's just part of the patriarchy. I think that there's nothing you need to sacrifice in order to be lovable. It's not a badge of honor, in my opinion, because it doesn't guarantee safety. It doesn't guarantee the sanctity of a marriage. And so if it doesn't guarantee it, then why do we do it? If it doesn't guarantee that we will stay in a marriage or that nothing will change, why do we sacrifice ourselves so much? I don't think suffering is a pillar in love. Yes, things happen, of course, but I don't think or believe it needs to be a badge of honor to say, oh, I've suffered so much for this relationship. I think that a relationship will have times where it's troublesome, sure, but to say I've suffered and I've sacrificed and look how much I've gave to this relationship in the detriment of yourself, I don't find to be very loving. I don't. And I think it comes from just seeing the lineage that I come from, of so many women in my life that have done so much for the family and done so much for the men in their life, and it was like at the expense and the cost of themselves, and they deserved to be poured into just as much. They really, really did. The reason why this book struck a chord with me was because it reminded me of a breakup that I had in 2020. And I was just so sure that I loved him and that the love was real. And while it was, I was so loving. And while I was so loving, it also required me to leave so many parts of myself in order to be loving. And I don't think that that needs to be true. I think that you can be loving without leaving yourself and your desires and your dreams and your wants and your preferences. Throughout the book, Belle talks a lot about feeling unworthy or discarded. And what it made me think of was, did this experience make you feel it, or did it uncover feelings that you already had about yourself? And for me, my breakup didn't really highlight, like, oh, I didn't love myself. It highlighted to me all the places where I wasn't loving myself, where I wasn't taking care of myself, where I wasn't prioritizing myself. And I see a lot of myself in this book, and I think that's why it resonates. And I think also that's why it was so popular, because there is something about like sacrificing and doing so much and then not being like met with or reciprocated, and like, why is that and how unfair that is. But I think it really is just a call to love ourselves, to center ourselves, to consult with ourselves. And now that I'm in a new relationship, before I ask him anything, like what he wants to do on the weekends or what he wants to eat, I always consult with myself. And that's not to say that his opinion doesn't matter, but my opinion matters just as much. And in a previous relationship, I just always asked, oh, what do you want to eat? What do you want to do? And I didn't have the pause of consulting with myself. And I find when you don't consult with yourself, you're not centering yourself. You're not asking yourself, where do I actually want to live? What do I actually want to do this weekend? What do I actually want to eat? You are inundated and influenced by the loudest, most opinionated person. And if you are not the loud, opinionated person in the relationship, it's very easy to just get influenced and become like a bystander in your own life. And so one thing I do differently in this relationship is I'm always consulting myself. I'm always asking myself, what do I need? What do I want? And whether I express it to him or not, it is for me to deepen and cultivate and keep intact the relationship that I have with myself. because that one can never be abandoned. It can never go away. And arguably, it's one of the most important relationships you have in your lifetime, is the one you have with yourself, is how you speak to yourself. It's how you soothe and consult yourself. What I want to highlight is that, like, I still accommodate, I still compromise, but I don't do it at the cost of myself. When I remain in the center of my life, I know what I want, I know how I feel, and I know what I prefer, and I have an opinion about where I'm going and what I am doing. And I think that that is so, so important, because self-abandonment isn't just overriding, like, just one day to the next you just forget yourself. It's in not doing the self consultation. It's in the not asking yourself how you feel. It's in not expressing your preference, or just the you letting another person decide so many parts of your life, including your finances, including your house or where you live. Like, really keeping intact the relationship you have with yourself. And that small thing of asking yourself before you ask your partner a question, knowing in your mind what you actually want, is so, so important, so that you don't go through your life and have years and years of like, how did I end up here? Why do I live here? What am I doing? When you constantly have and exercise a self consultation, you keep intact the relationship you have with yourself. And another thing I want to say is, I think a lot about, like, being a mom, and being a mom one day, because she's a mom, and thinking a lot about, like, the type of mother I want to embody and model. And for me, I want to model someone that was in the center of herself, that had direction, and that didn't sacrifice her life or her dreams or her joys for another person, especially a man. Like, I want to be at the center of my life because I would want my daughter to be at the center of her life. And I think you can be a great mom. I think you can be a great wife, and also a great friend and lover to yourself. I think it's a great book. I think that every woman honestly deserves to read it, because I find that the patriarchy is really just a big theme in this book, and a default. Like, we are conditioned to be male centered, to default to men, to trust them with our finances, to let them lead our life, and at what cost. And so it is a great book if you are curious, and I highly recommend it. But instead of asking or thinking, did I marry a stranger? I think the bigger, deeper question is, am I a stranger to myself? And how can I preserve and deepen the relationship I have with myself? And it comes from talking, speaking, and questioning and conversing with yourself often. That's all for now. And thank you so much for tuning in.